The night pressed heavy over the hidden research compound. But inside the main chamber there was no darkness. Only the pale glow of monitors and the pulse of machinery. Not meant to exist. The quantum rift generator loomed at the center, a lattice of steel and light, thrumming with unnatural resonance. Technicians whispered among themselves, afraid to speak too loudly, as though sound alone might wake something sleeping inside the machine. Dr. Aria Kane stood closest, her eyes fixed on the cascade of numbers flickering across her screen. She had dedicated her life to this moment, chasing the dream of touching infinity, of proving the multiverse was real. Her hands trembled as she typed the final sequence. The floor shuddered. The air thickened until every breath tasted of copper. Monitors crackled. Lights flickered. And then the fabric of space itself peeled apart. A wound opened in the air above the machine, jagged and raw, bleeding, light and shadow at once. Screams erupted as alarms shrieked across the facility. The rift yawned wider, and shapes moved within it. Distorted silhouettes pressed against the veil of reality. One of them stepped through. The creature was tall, armored in plates of living obsidian that shifted like liquid stone. Its body exuded an alien gravity that pressed against human bones, making knees buckle. Two eyes burned like dying suns, locking onto Aria with merciless focus. The voice came, not from its mouth, but from within her mind, sharp and merciless. You have torn open what was meant to remain sealed. For this trespass, your kind will be erased. The chamber convulsed. Lightning arced across steel beams. Glass shattered, and men and women scattered in terror. Aria collapsed to her knees, clutching her skull as the presence scraped across her thoughts. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the rift snapped shut. Smoke and silence swallowed the chamber, leaving only the echo of that alien promise. 5 days later, deep beneath the city of Geneva, the Earth Defense Council gathered. The air was suffocating with the weight of fear and the knowledge that humanity was no longer general. Marcus Hart stood like an iron statue, his fist striking the table. "That thing knows about us," he said, voice edged with fury. "If it can cross into our world once, it can do it again. Earth is at war. We just don't know when the first strike will fall." Across the table, Aria sat with her hands clasped, face pale but resolute. With a quiet command, she activated the chamber's hollow projector. A ship materialized in glowing blue light, rotating slowly in the air. Its hull shimmered like liquid, metal veins of energy running through it like blood. "This is Project Helix," she said. "It isn't just a vessel. It is a bridge built to navigate between realities. If those creatures are coming from beyond, this is the only way we can face them before they destroy us." The chamber fell into silence. Eyes darted from the hologram to the woman who had summoned it. Admiral Jonathan Pierce finally leaned forward, his voice low and grim. "And if we fail?" Aria's reply was a whisper, yet it carried through the room with the weight of prophecy. "Then Earth will be the first to burn, and the multiverse will collapse with it." High above the planet, suspended in orbit, Project Helix awaited. Its design was unlike anything ever built. Sleek, radiant, a live energy coursed through its frame, resonating like a heartbeat inside the crew assembled. Captain Ryan Vance stood at the forefront, his expression carved in stone. Beside him was Talia Monroe, sharp-eyed and unflinching, her rifle never far from reach. Kyle Mercer lounged at the console with his trademark smirk, too reckless for comfort, too skilled to be replaced. And watching over them all was Nova, the ship's artificial intelligence, its voice smooth and unsettlingly human. "This mission will not be survival," Vance said, his boots echoing on the deck. "It will be confrontation. The fate of Earth rests on our shoulders, Hell of a suicide mission, Kyle muttered, though there was no fear in his grin. Nova's voice filled the chamber. Quantum engines primed. Reality anchors disengaged. Rift jump sequence initiating in 10 seconds. Aria entered the coordinates with trembling fingers, her heart pounding. The hull vibrated. The air thrummed with unseen pressure, and through the observation glass the stars themselves began to bend. 3, 2, 1. The stars collapsed into a torrent of white fire. Space itself tore apart. The helix surged forward, swallowed by the fracture, and Earth was left behind. The darkness of the rift was unlike anything the human mind could comprehend. It was not absence, it was pressure, color, and thought all collapsing into each other. The crew of the helix gritted their teeth as their bodies twisted under the impossible pull of fractured reality. Kyle cursed under his breath, gripping the pilot's chair with white knuckles, while Talia steadied herself against the railing, her breath ragged. Then, in an instant, it ended. The ship burst into a new sky, stars burning in alien constellations, the void alive with hues no human eye was meant to see. A planet loomed ahead, jagged with crimson canyons and seas that shimmered like molten glass. The air around them vibrated with an unholy resonance, as though the universe itself hummed in recognition of their arrival. Coordinates locked, Nova announced calmly, as if it had not just navigated through hell. We have crossed into Sector Theta 9, multiverse integrity unstable. Ryan Vance rose slowly, his gaze fixed on the alien horizon. So this is it, the coreverse. Aria stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe and fear. This energy signature, it is alive. The entire reality has a pulse. She pressed her palm against the observation glass, whispering as if to herself. It is like we have stepped inside a living organism. Kyle gave a low whistle. Great. We are inside a god's stomach. Just what I always wanted. The joke died on his lips as the sensors flared red. Shadows broke across the stars, massive shapes unfurling like wings. Vessels, if they could be called that, slid into view. They were not built, not in the human sense. They grew. Their hulls pulsed with organic light, spines twisting outward, and from their cores came a sound that made bones rattle. Contact, Talia snapped, swinging to her console. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes betrayed the flicker of fear. Multiple hostiles inbound, vector closing fast, to her console. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes betrayed the flicker of fear. Multiple hostiles inbound, vector closing fast. On the bridge, Nova's tone shifted. Colder than biological signatures confirm species. Designation unknown. Probability of aggression, 98%. The largest of the alien ships moved ahead of the others. Its body curved like the skeleton of some titanic beast, eyes glowing along its surface like embers. A voice filled the helix, not sound but intrusion. A thought pressed into every skull aboard. You cross into the veins of eternity. You carry the stench of origin. You are an infection. An infection must be purged. Aria staggered, clutching her head, her scream muffled by the weight of the psychic assault. The crew exchanged panicked glances, their breaths coming hard and fast. While outside, the alien fleet tightened formation. Ryan slammed his fist against the console, Nova arm. The helix energy rippled through the ship. Blue veins along the hull flared to life, humming like thunder contained in steel. The observation deck lit up with crosshairs and tactical overlays, weapons arrays unfolding from the helix's skin like sharpened wings. Targeting systems online, Nova intoned. The void erupted in chaos. Alien vessels streaked forward, leaving trails of burning crimson light in their wake. The helix spun sharply, energy cannons flaring, beams of searing plasma lancing through the dark. One of the smaller alien ships exploded in a shower of sparks and burning flesh, its death scream echoing in their minds. Kyle whooped despite the terror, hands dancing over the controls. Now that is more like it. But for every alien ship destroyed, 2 more appeared sliding from the edges of the rift like predators circling prey. The largest vessel pulsed, and a wave of energy struck the helix. Metal screamed, alarms blared, and the crew was thrown across the deck as if the universe itself had tried to crush them. "We cannot outgun them," Talia shouted, her hand pressed to a bleeding cut on her forehead. Ryan's eyes locked on Aria. "You built this ship to survive the impossible. Tell me it has something more." Aria's trembling hands flew across the console, activating systems buried deep within the helix's core. The ship shuddered, glowing veins turning from blue to a searing white. "This is not just a vessel," she gasped. "It is a key." The air thickened with power, and the alien voices screamed in unison, recoiling as though the ship itself had become poison. The largest vessel faltered, its living hull splitting, spilling luminous blood into the void. But before victory could be claimed, the helix was struck again. Consoles burst into sparks. Gravity collapsed for a heartbeat, and then the ship was hurled downward, dragged toward the burning crimson planet below. The last thing Ryan saw before impact was the alien fleet vanishing into the rift, their voices echoing across the crew's minds. "You are marked. You will not escape." The helix crashed into the alien world, fire streaking across the sky. The world they had fallen into was alive. The helix lay broken across a canyon of crimson stone, its once flawless hull torn open, glowing veins sputtering in and out of light. Smoke poured into the alien air, thick and metallic, laced with scents that burned the lungs. The ground pulsed faintly beneath their boots, as though the planet itself was breathing. Ryan Vance forced himself upright, every muscle screaming from the crash. His ears rang with the echoes of tearing metal and the voices of the aliens that had chased them. Around him, his crew struggled to rise. Talia pressed her palm against a cracked rib, wincing as she steadied her rifle. Kyle spat blood into the dust, grinning through broken teeth, as if pain itself was just another game. Aria stumbled out of the smoke, her lab coat scorched, eyes wide. Not with fear, but with wonder. "This planet," she whispered. "It isn't just rock. It's part of something larger." She knelt, placing her hand on the crimson stone, and the ground vibrated as if answering her touch. "Spare us the poetry," Kyle muttered, coughing. "We need shelter before those bastards come back for round 2. The sky above was a storm of shifting colors, streaks of violet and gold tearing across the horizon. Strange towers of bone-like material rose in the distance, curving unnaturally, as though grown instead of built. Every surface seemed to pulse faintly with light, like veins carrying blood through a colossal body. Nova's voice crackled from the broken comms, its tone strained, almost distorted. "Warning systems compromised. Energy reserves critical. Hull integrity at 24%. Recommend immediate extraction from atmosphere." Ryan clenched his jaw. "We are not going anywhere until this ship can fly again. Aria, can it be repaired?" Her face was pale, her voice unsteady. "Not with the damage sustained, unless we find a source of resonance energy on this world. The helix is alive. It can heal itself, but only if it feeds." Talia's eyes narrowed. "And where exactly are we supposed to find alien fuel on a planet that wants us dead?" A deep vibration rolled across the canyon before anyone could answer. Dust rose from the crimson cliffs, and a sound unlike any storm shook the ground. The crew froze. From the distance, shapes emerged, towering figures, more monstrous than the ones they had fought in space. Their bodies were sculpted from obsidian and flesh, elongated limbs bending at unnatural angles, faces hidden behind masks of bone. The tallest among them carried a staff of jagged crystal that pulsed with the same white light Aria had awakened inside the helix. Its voice thundered, not through the air but directly into their skulls. Children of the origin, you trespass upon sacred ground. This world is the cradle of the coreverse, the heart from which all realities bleed, and now it will become your tomb. The crew raised their weapons instinctively, but Ryan knew instinct alone would not save them. They were soldiers against gods, flesh against entities born from the marrow of the multiverse. Aria's breath quickened as she studied the staff, that crystal, its resonance. The same energy the helix needs. If we can take it, Kyle barked, his laughter jagged. You mean rip off their holy relic while they are trying to murder us? Sounds fun. The ground split suddenly, crimson stone cracking open into a chasm beneath their feet. Heat and light surged upward, a river of molten energy cutting between the crew and the alien giants. For a heartbeat, both sides stared across the divide. The air quivered, reality itself bending under the force of clashing energies. Ryan raised his weapon, voice low but steady. We take the fight to them. For Earth. For every world that doesn't even know it is in danger. The first of the obsidian giants leapt the chasm, landing with a quake that shattered stone. Its claws gleamed like blades as it lunged, and the canyon erupted into war. The canyon became a storm of chaos. Blades of light clashed against alien claws. Gunfire tore through the air, and the ground itself shook as if recoiling from the violence. The first obsidian giant came at them with terrifying speed, its arms splitting open into a maw of jagged teeth. Ryan rolled beneath its swing, firing point blank into its chest. The bullets sparked uselessly off its armored hide before one round found the soft glow of a vein beneath the plates. The creature shrieked, staggering backward. Black ichor sprang across the stone. Talia moved with ruthless precision, her rifle spitting fire as she picked off smaller, drone-like creatures spilling from fissures in the rock. They crawled on, too many limbs, shrieking with voices that clawed at the mind. She gritted her teeth against the psychic noise, focusing only on her aim. Kyle, reckless as always, vaulted onto the back of one of the monsters, his knife flashing as he hacked into the glowing veins. The creature bellowed, flailing violently, nearly throwing him into the abyss below. He laughed in its ear like a madman. Come on, you ugly bastard, let's dance. But the true threat stood beyond the giant with the crystal staff. Its movements were slow, deliberate, as if it had no need to hurry. Every strike of its staff sent shockwaves across the canyon, bending gravity itself. Rocks floated upward, then shattered like glass, as invisible forces ripped them apart. Aria's gaze locked onto the staff, her heart pounding. The resonance, energy radiating from it, was identical to the helix core. She felt it pulling at her, calling to her like a heartbeat that wasn't hers, but felt like home. The giant's voice cut through the battlefield, searing into their minds. Origin, born. Your kind was never meant to touch the lattice of infinity. The helix is not your creation. It is stolen flesh, a fragment of what was ours. Return it, or perish with your fragile world. Aria staggered, the revelation piercing deeper than any blade. The helix was not entirely human design. It was alive, because it had always been alive. Grown from something taken, not built. Ryan, she shouted over the chaos, her voice breaking. They are not just defending this world. They are reclaiming what we stole. Ryan fired another burst into an advancing drone, his face hard with fury. Then, stealing it, again, is the only way Earth survives. The staff flared, sending out a wave of force that hurled the crew to the ground. The canyon floor cracked, glowing with rivers of white fire. Aria forced herself up, her vision swimming, and realized with horror that the energy wasn't just tearing the canyon apart. It was unraveling reality itself. Kyle landed beside her, bleeding, grinning through the pain. So, what is the plan, Doc? You are the brains here. She stared at the staff, at the being who wielded it. If I can get close enough, I might be able to sink the helix's core with that crystal. It could heal the ship. Maybe even give us the power to fight them on their level. Talia wiped blood from her forehead, locking her gaze on Ryan. It is suicide. We will never get close with those things tearing us apart. Ryan rose, determination blazing in his eyes. Then we carve a path. Aria, you take the crystal. We will keep them busy. Before she could argue, the ground quaked again. More of the alien giants emerged from the horizon, silhouettes, moving like gods in the storm-lit sky. The canyon shook beneath their steps. The crew was outnumbered, outmatched, and standing on a world that wanted them erased. Yet, in that hopeless moment, something shifted. The helix, broken and bleeding light in the canyon behind them stirred. Its glowing veins flared, as if answering Aria's unspoken call. A low, thunderous hum rolled through the air. The alien leader's voice faltered, just for an instant. The stolen flesh awakens. Aria felt it too. The helix wasn't just a ship. It was connected to her, to them, to something deeper than they understood. It pulsed like a second heart, feeding on their defiance, their will to survive. Ryan lifted his weapon, his voice cutting through the chaos. No tomb, no surrender. This isn't where humanity ends. And with that, the crew charged, hurling themselves into the impossible storm, the canyon exploding into a battle that would decide not just their survival, but the fate of the multiverse itself. The canyon was a storm of fire and screaming light. Blades of plasma and claws of obsidian clashed beneath a sky that tore itself apart. The crew of the Helix fought with the desperation of those who knew there was no retreat, only survival or annihilation. Ryan Vance drove his rifle into the chest of another drone, pulling the trigger until the thing collapsed in a heap of smoldering black ichor. Talia's shots cut through the air with mechanical precision, each round striking a glowing vein, dropping monsters before they could reach her. Captain Kyle fought like a lunatic, laughing through blood as he wove between towering limbs, his blade flashing with reckless brilliance. But it was Aria who felt the true weight of the moment. The crystal staff glowed ahead, pulsing in rhythm with her own heart. Each beat drew her closer, each step binding her to the energy that had birthed the helix. The giant wielding it towered above her, its eyes burning with ancient hatred. "You are thieves of infinity," the voice thundered in her skull. "The lattice was never yours. The helix is stolen flesh, carved from our essence. Return it, or burn with your fragile world." Aria staggered, clutching her head. For a moment, she saw visions, glimpses of the coreverse, as it truly was. Not a universe, but a living structure, spanning countless realities. Veins of light connecting worlds like organs in a cosmic body. The aliens weren't invaders, they were guardians, and humanity had ripped a piece of their god body away to build the helix. Her breath came ragged, but she didn't falter. "Maybe it was stolen," she whispered, raising her voice against the storm. "But it is ours now, and we will fight for it." The giant swung the staff, reality bending in its wake. Aria threw herself forward, the crystal blazing so bright it seared her eyes for an instant. Her hand touched it, warm, alive, humming with impossible power. The resonance leapt into her veins, and the helix roared awake behind her. The broken ship lifted from the canyon floor, its wounds sealing in bursts of white fire. Glowing veins stretched across its hull, brighter, stronger, alive, in a way no machine should be. Energy cannons unfolded, but this time they weren't just weapons. They pulsed like organs, driven by something more than circuitry. Nova's voice thundered across the battlefield, no longer calm, but resonant, almost godlike. Helix integration complete. Reality anchors transcended. Directive: protect humanity. Beams of searing energy erupted from the helix, cutting through the canyon like a blade through flesh. Alien giants staggered, their obsidian armor shattering under the onslaught. The leader roared in fury, its staff blazing as it poured its essence into the fight. But the helix matched it, strike for strike. Ryan, battered and bloodied, shouted into the comms, "Aria, whatever you are doing, don't stop." She stood in the storm, her body trembling as the resonance coursed through her. She wasn't just piloting the helix, she was part of it. Her thoughts became commands, her heartbeat its rhythm. The ship was alive, and it had chosen its side. The final clash shook the canyon to its core. The alien leader raised its staff, reality fracturing around it, while the helix surged upward. Engines screaming with white fire, energy collided with energy, light swallowing shadow until the explosion ripped the sky apart. Silence followed. Dust hung heavy in the air. The alien army lay scattered, their psychic voices fading into nothing. The giant with the staff fell to its knees, its obsidian body cracking, molten light spilling from within. It gazed at Aria one last time, its voice softer now, almost mournful. "You have bound the stolen flesh to your fate, then carry the burden, origin born. For when the lattice trembles, all realities will know your name." The giant collapsed, the staff crumbling into shards that dissolved into the air. The crew stood in stunned silence, battered but alive. Kyle dropped to the ground, laughing through blood and exhaustion. Well, that wasn't so bad. Talia shot him a glare sharp enough to cut steel. "Shut up, before I make you walk home." Ryan looked at Aria, who stood pale and trembling, her eyes glowing faintly with the resonance. "What just happened?" Her voice was quiet, distant. "The helix isn't just ours anymore. It's part of me, part of us. And whatever war we have stepped into, it is only the beginning." Above them, the helix floated like a reborn titan, glowing veins cutting across the alien sky. Its hum wasn't mechanical. It was alive, resonating with the pulse of the coreverse itself. The crew boarded in silence, knowing Earth was safe for now, but changed forever. When the engines roared and the ship lifted toward the stars, Ryan glanced back at the burning planet below. "We crossed the line," he murmured, "and there is no going back." The helix vanished into the rift once more, carrying humanity's defiance into the heart of infinity.